All right, well, welcome. This is a pretty early in the can cycle, so I hope everybody's enjoying themselves and they're fresh and ready to go. I'm Jeremy Fain, co-founder CEO of Cognitive. Thanks for coming on the yacht. Today we have a conversation with Fanatics just about the entire business of marketing a sports book and all the different things that are going into this highly competitive segment right now in the United States, especially. So, welcome. Let's do some introductions.
Sure. I'm Andy Magnus. I'm Director of Paid Marketing here at Fanatics Betting and Gaming.
And I'm Jamie Coombs, and I'm VP of Performance at Fanatics Betting and Gaming.
All right, let's get right into it. So, Fanatics went from number 5 to number 3 sports book in a year. How'd you pull that off?
I think we took a very different strategy to like the mass market strategy. We launched 2.5, 3 years ago across casino and sportsbook, and we were very pointed in terms of who we were after from a customer base. And then we were able to leverage the ecosystem as well we've got the commerce database, which is millions of customers, and we were able to understand what the right customers were and be able to cross-sell them across.
All right, so can we dig into that a little, the commerce side of the business, and that's helped in a certain way? Like, how long's the commerce side of the business been going, and how did this all sort of come up? Do you know how it came about that then, hey, let's do sportsbook? Because that's not a doesn't seem to be the natural next step.
Yeah, so Fanatics Commerce has been making sports apparel, merchandise, collectibles for, over a decade now. And so during that time, we've acquired, over 100,000 customers. And the most powerful asset that we have as Fanatics is that database, not just, what they buy, but what their favorite teams are, what their favorite players are, which sports they engage with, which types of apparel that they want. And so it became very clear that Fanatics is vertically integrated in sports in a way that no other company is. And what better way to, increase our touch points with the sports fan than to layer on sports betting where there's a gaming component in addition to ticketing, in addition to merchandise, in addition to collecting, where they can activate and engage themselves within that ecosystem in a way that, the other sports betting companies just can't.
Can we dig into that just a little quickly? Like, as you launched, when you were delivering messaging, were you really sort of emailing very specific game and team messages, and was that working really well? I mean, did you try that?
I think sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like for instance, I'm a New York Jets fan, and I would never bet on the Jets because I don't hate myself. So sometimes I think it works very well, but other times, it doesn't. And part of what we're learning about with that database is which data is really good for personalization, which data is really good for targeting, and which data is a really good indicator towards value.
Yeah, so let's get into the audience piece. We just talked about this with Digiday. Well, I don't think there's a huge shift actually happening across most marketers, but with Fanatics, I think you've been making a lot of different changes in how you think about audience. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think we looked at breaking down the audiences probably more in a pointed way. Like if you think about our business and what drives the revenue, it's a very small amount of our base drives 80% of our revenue. And so if we start there and we're able to mine those audiences, we're very still nascent in terms of being around for 2 to 3 years. There's still a massive opportunity to grow that. The American base as well, the high value customers are extremely high value. And so utilizing like technology, utilizing our ecosystem data, utilizing all our different USPs in terms of what we stand for from a product perspective has really helped us really just focus on that customer and what they want to see.
Yeah, and I think that every single sports book out there is after that same high value customer, but a customer that is engaged in the ecosystem is valuable to us in a way that they're not valuable to any of our competitors. And that's one of the big competitive differentiations. If they buy into the value of fan cash of, all right, I can earn this making a bet and then buy a jersey with it later, that's a customer that's going to be much less transactional and they're going to be a lot more bought into what Fanatics can provide for them as a sports fan.
And what about contextual targeting, especially to get the word out? How have you been doing that versus audience targeting?
I mean, Cognitive is helping us out a lot with that.
That's
Leading
great to
question there.
hear.
Look, I think there are periods in which a sports bettor is going to become aware of you and consider you. And then there are those high intent periods, especially within in game and pre game time periods. What we really like doing, is it's an industry where a lot of inventory is overpriced because it's so competitive, and we really like to think about what some of those non-obvious plays are. The example I use is maybe a sports bettor is really into barbecue recipes, and is that an area where we can really index highly because the inventory is priced so much better? That's where we get really excited about contextual, just because obviously you get before an NFL game, like you're gonna get a highly engaged user, but the economics might not necessarily be there.
All right, let's switch topics to just the general marketing of sports books in the United States. Everybody has celebrities talking about how they use their sports book. Uh, Fanatics has chosen um, uh, Jenners and things like that. Great Super Bowl ad that was, I thought, really hit home and was really funny, and I think a lot of people talked about it. That was huge. How do you decide on that strategy? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I think if you think of all the different sportsbook, it's saturated with celebrities. They spend heaps of money and they have crazy sign-up offers. That's really the category we work in. And so the way we've thought about it, number one, we don't want to have a race to the bottom from a sign-up offer perspective, so we never really go down that route. But from a celebrity perspective, Fanatics has a family of celebrities that are really associated with the brand itself, and so we really focus at the top of funnel and using ones that are associated already with Fanatics, and then as we go lower in the funnel, that's when we get a lot more pointed in terms of like trying to talk to that high value customer.
Yeah, and Cognitive's really helped us figure out what some of those swim lanes are, where I think, the celebrities that we have are really great for not just driving awareness, but creating that emotional connection with our brand. But when it comes time to, see how something like FanCash works or something like the ecosystem works, there's nothing better than our product to show that. And so we've really been able to figure out a lot of like, what do those combinations look like across inventory through the funnel that's going to convert those higher value users.
It's now it seems like it wouldn't be legal for current sports stars to endorse sports bet things, so I don't see that a lot. But I thought the Super Bowl ad with Kendall was really interesting because she was talking about sports stars as part of her life and about the ecosystem. So I thought that was a really good way of getting in there. Is that a challenge again, just to like choose the right celebrity and how to find the sports betters through that celebrity?
Yeah, I think it's something everyone's still trying to figure out. Like some active players still do endorsements for our competitors. For instance, LeBron's working with DraftKings, but he's doing football ads. So there are still ways that people in the industry can do it. To Jamie's point about a race to the bottom, we don't want to create a playbook that everyone else can replicate. We're looking to do something that's a bit more fanatic specific. And so, how can you leverage or harness the power of what people love about sports, what people love about athletics without making it feel like it's taking over the game.
And I mean, even with Kendall Jenner, she's just a massive star. So the talkability and the virality of something like that just worked really well with us.
Yep.
So you mentioned, Jamie, the sign up bonuses and things like that. How do you navigate that part of the business?
It's challenging because I think like the more generous you get, like you get a lot of customers in the door. They'll be super efficient in terms of how much they cost. But when you look at the value, they've all just kind of chased the promos. And so the way we look at it is like twofold. We try go out super generous, but you have to do more than just place one bet. So like you have to come back and you have to show genuine activity across a period of time, and that's when we'll unlock all the bonuses for you. So it allows us to like only spend on the right customers. If they only bet with us once, then we spend less on it. And if they come right through, then it strengthens their value. So we find a middle ground, but at the end of the day, as we target high value customers, they're not necessarily just there for the promo.
Have you figured out how to figure out who these new users are going to be that are high value? Like, how are you looking at that? Or has Cognitive just told you how to do it?
We put a lot of resources into predictive revenue models, and that helps. But we feed that signal to Cognitive, and one of the things Cognitive's taught us, like we want to kind of have our cake and eat it too, of go really, really broad and get a lot of cut through, but also focus on those high value customers. And so within the Cognitive platform, we've been able to model that high revenue signal, get that broad reach, but maybe index frequency a little higher towards the users that matter most, that drive the most revenue for us.
So, can you talk a little bit more about that path, though, or how does one encourage the path to long-term loyalty effectively?
The first 14 days are key. Early life is the most important part because that's when a consumer will decide whether they're going to go or stay with us. So we really focus the first 14 days on creating and understanding as many signals as possible to understand which type of customer they are, as well as educating on the ecosystem. Because as we spoke about, if every time someone uses another part of our ecosystem, the value increases significantly. So it's really number one, an educational process, but using the data in the first 14 days to ensure that we keep the right customers around.
So, can we move back actually to the commerce side? Is the data moving back and forth? Are you analyzing both sides to try to of let's say a virtuous circle of things? Like how does that work within Fanatics?
Yep. I think, everyone who's really embedded in that would say that we're still in the early innings. We're only beginning to harness the power of, what vertical integration within the sports world really means. And so, yeah, like there are certainly a bunch of signals that we've been like, wow, this person collects high value, autographed memorabilia. They might also, have a propensity to bet a lot. But, again, like I think we're only scratching the surface in terms of what we can actually unlock. So definitely to be continued there.
I have a personal question.
Yeah.
What's prop betting? Like, does somebody just sit around making up prop bets, or is it an AI that generates all these different combinations that are suggested? How does that work?
Oh, I don't know the technical capabilities or how it works, but no, it's not someone in the background. We have models and a very smart trading team that essentially builds out all the probabilities. And it's obviously a lot of machine learning in terms of like what it looks like. And then the traders will look at the whole market in terms of where people are betting as well to kind of figure out what we need to do from manually shifting the odds.
Yeah, but it is someone's job to find out, hey, was this player out late in Miami, and is that going to, move the line one way or the other? So there is a machine part, but there's a human element to everything, especially as you get towards bigger markets.
And what does that kind of an operation look like? Are there thousands of sort of odds makers that work at the company, or how does that work?
I'd say there's a couple of hundred across America and in Europe that work in the trading and risk team and just always on every single sport.
It seems that NFL is the largest sport from a betting perspective. Is that true? And why do you think that is?
Not necessarily.
I think it's the largest across the NFL period, but if you thought about it from a 12-month period, sports like NBA and baseball also hold a lot of value for us. But yeah, I think just the engagement around football, whether it's college or NFL, is just such a massive part of people's lives in America across that September to February period.
The number of engaged bettors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But football has this, incredible weekly rhythm that I know we all get caught up in, where, Monday Night Football ends and you kind of build up towards Thursday and then Sunday again. A sport like baseball, a sport like basketball, it's a lot more of an everyday thing. And so you might get a lot more opportunities to engage, but to your point, those football engagement moments just peak a lot harder.
Yeah, and they just get focused at a certain point in
Right.
time, and they just get into it.
I know
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, looking ahead, you're number 3. How are you going to be number 1? What are you going to do? Is it just spend more money on marketing?
With cognitive, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. You go.
Um, to Jamie's point earlier, it's like how do you cut through and really become a culturally relevant brand while also indexing towards these high value users? That's really something that, we're trying to figure out. And that puts us at parity, I think, with the top two. But then what really gets us ahead are the moats that only Fanatics can do. So is it a way of creating these one-on-one experiences, especially for these higher value users, where we're incorporating, meeting your favorite player, getting an autographed a jersey from them if you hit a big parlay? Is it, different ways that we can continually engage the whole ecosystem and spend more money on loyalty because, this is something that's important to not just a bettor, but to a sports fan. Like that's where we feel like we're not just another book. We're able to differentiate ourselves and ideally, take over number one because number three is definitely not good enough for us.
I mean, I'll echo what you said. I think just the ecosystem, like when we built this, our right to win wasn't just with the sportsbook, wasn't just with the casino. It was the full fandom and the full ecosystem, and a fan can come in and do all of these different things in one spot. And I think as we continue to build on this ecosystem, that's really what's going to give us the right to win long term.
So one last question, actually. Do you see the ecosystem of the population of sports bettors in the United States? Can is there a growth curve there that's flattening out? Is it continuing to go up? Because it's still pretty new in the United States.
Uh, I would say it's slightly flattening out with less states opening this year and next. We've seen it grow massively. The TAM will obviously continue to grow as people start to understand more about sports betting. But I think the thing that's probably opening it up further is the likes of markets and Polymarket and Kalshi, which is, I guess, another version of sports betting across the whole of America rather than just sports betting states.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what Fanatics is doing in that space also?
Yep. So we have a market as well. Fanatics Markets is another product that we have, which also opens up. So you have sportsbook states where you can sports bet, and then outside we have Fanatics Markets, which allows you to do similar types of trades, I would say is the right word, where you can't legally sports bet. So it's really exciting being able to open up the TAM further.
Yeah, and to that point, like that appeals sometimes to not a traditional sports betting audience either. Like it appeals a lot more to a crypto audience that really sees some of these markets as more of an investment than as an actual sports bet, where you're not betting against the house, you're betting against another player, and we're just providing liquidity within that.
All right. Who's going to win the World Cup?
New Zealand. I don't know. Spain, probably.
Well, that's we can open up for some questions if anybody has questions from the audience. All right, it's getting hot. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for all the people who came, and thanks to our Fanatics folks for being great panelists.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.